number 1 overall to the Jags. Key, let's start with you, then with Mike. Better, worse, or same? The situation, Baker to the Browns and Trevor to the Jags. Better, same, or worse?
I think it's the same situation. If you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, hadn't really had a quarterback stabilize that organization in a very, very long time. I would go all the way back to Mark Brunell when they had him underneath the center as a quarterback of the future for the Jaguars. I know they drafted guys along the way, but those guys that they drafted, the Blaine Gabberts of the world, the Bortles of the world, they didn't work out. But you look at the Cleveland Browns, I think the same thing for them. They hadn't had a quarterback to stabilize that organization. They got one in Baker Mayfield now. So to me, it's the same.
Yeah, Key, I see it different. I think it's a better situation for Trevor Lawrence. You got a great offensive mind in Urban Meyer. He was successful at Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, Ohio State. They got a young, dynamic player I like a lot in Laviska Shenault. I think defensively they got a couple pressure players in the front seven like Josh Allen. So I think this is a team that could turn around much quicker than what was going on in Cleveland at the time. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going into a good situation. So it's better than Baker Mayfield, in my opinion.
Laviska Shenault, one of the greatest receivers in Pac-12 history. Key, you know anybody else that balled out at the receiver position in the Pac-12? No, you weren't as good as Laviska. No, I'm just kidding.
Look at my face. What?
Shenault was really good. I got to amend it. Key played when it was a Pac-10, so technically I guess we can both be right.
Yeah, Colorado was nowhere to be found.
No, that's for sure. They were in the Big 12 back in those days, for sure. Okay, so the second quarterback taken off the board. Remember, Sam Darnold was the 3rd overall pick by the Jets, but he was the second quarterback off the board in 2018. According to Mike's mock and practically everybody else that does this for a living, guess what? It's the Jets again, and they're going to go with Zach Wilson. Better, same, or worse, Key? Sam with the Jets, Zach with the Jets.
You know, I went back and forth on this, and I'm going to probably have to say it's probably better with Zach with the Jets right now, because I think when you look at the new head coach, new head coach coming in, Joe Douglas understands the situation that Sam went through when he was drafted. They kind of put the team on Sam's back without surrounding him with any players at all. I think they bring Zach along a little slower. They kind of take the formula from Rex Ryan along with Mike Tannenbaum, what they did with Mark Sanchez, run the football, play powerful defense, and allow him to make a handful of throws to keep him in games. That's why I think it's a better situation than Sam had.
Key, completely agree. I think it's better, and for similar reasons. Mike LaFleur, I'm talking to you. Joe Burrow threw the ball 450 times last year in 10 games. Be balanced early, just like he said. We're trying to make Zach Wilson successful for the next 10 years, not the next 10 minutes. So I think it's a better situation, but be balanced on offense. Robert Saleh, they should be better on defense.
Should be predictable when these two guys come off the board 1-2 if it all holds on the NFL Draft on ESPN and ESPN Radio on Thursday, April 29th. Now, this is interesting. The third quarterback off the board, I love this comparison because these two guys couldn't be more different as quarterbacks, but they have one big similarity. The night they were drafted, or the night they will be drafted if we extrapolate ahead, huge questions about both. Huge questions, but in different ways. Third quarterback taken off the board in 2018 was Josh Allen to the Buffalo Bills. We know what he's turned into, but just remember draft night. Mac Jones, tons of questions of himself. Mike has him going to the 49ers at third after San Francisco gives up a haul to get there. Better, same, or worse? Josh Allen with the Bills and all those questions floating in 2018, Key? Or the same with Mac and the 49ers this spring?
I think it's a better situation. You think about the 49ers 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. Mac Jones can learn under Jimmy Garoppolo. Kyle Shanahan is a terrific offensive mind in this league. He knows what to do with quarterbacks. He understands offensive philosophy. You look at Josh Allen, they had to go out and sign and trade wide receivers to get Stephon Diggs, to get Cole Beasley, to come over so that you can see the evolution of Josh Allen to where he is today, talking about an extension, because he certainly has turned things around in his third year, where that wasn't the case his first couple years. So I would say Jones is going to land in a better situation because of that.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the best 21-person roster in the NFL non-quarterback is the 49ers. And you just think about, they are loaded from Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, George Kittle, on and on and on. I think it's tailor-made. But here's something else that's interesting, guys. If I'm the 49ers, why not play Jimmy Garoppolo? Why not, again, Patrick Mahomes sat for 15 games his rookie year. So let Mac Jones come along slowly if you can't get the right value for Jimmy G. So I think it's an ideal situation, much better than what Josh Allen had in Buffalo.
And as Key has said a million times, and I totally concur, I mean, Garoppolo completes one pass to Emmanuel Sanders. We're not even talking about this. We're talking about Garoppolo being the next Montana or Young, and the 49ers aren't in the 3 spot. It's amazing what the margins in this league can do. One throw or one incomplete throw can change everything. Okay, 4th of 5. Again, if you're just joining us, 5 quarterbacks selected in 2018 in the first round. Mike's got 5 in the first 8. A run on signal callers in 2021. We're stacking them both up. This one, I mean, this is like grading the incomplete, I guess. I mean, 4th quarterback taken in the 2018 draft was Josh Rosen, who very confidently said he was going to make all those other teams pay for not drafting him. I wonder how that's worked out for him. 2021, according to Mike, I'm just stating facts, folks. I'm just the facts guy. In 2021, Mike's got the 4th quarterback coming off the board, being Trey Lance to the Falcons. You know where I stand on this. Josh Rosen, better, same, or worse? Him being selected by Arizona, or presumptively, as Mike said, Key here, Trey Lance going to the ATL?
You know, here's a good situation if he was going to Atlanta because, you got a veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan. You got Arthur Smith coming over from Tennessee as a head coach, offensive-minded guy. He can sit and learn for a couple years behind Matt Ryan before he's thrown to the Wolves. And I think he needs to be able to do that because, first of all, he's not going to have any offseason, really. I mean, it's going to continue to be one of those situations where, because we're in a pandemic, they're not going to really be able to get their hands on him the way that they would like to. You know how coaches are. They want to work with their players. So having him learn behind a guy like Matt Ryan for several years is not a bad thing. If you go back in the history of the NFL, that is the way it's been. That's the way it was, Mike, in the past, is guys that were drafted had veterans in front of them set and wait their turn, then they became something successful. I see that with Trey Lance because he's got a little bit of work to do.
Key, completely agree. Quarterback is fundamentally a developmental position. Quarterbacks can get better. You know, even a guy like Mitch Trubisky, who has struggled for big parts of his career, he's actually played better. You know, we've seen it recently with Ryan Tannehill. He did some good things in Miami, obviously doing great things in Tennessee. You know, most notably somebody like Drew Brees. Chargers move on from him. The rest is history. So I think for Trey Lance to sit for a year or two, I think he's the most intriguing quarterback in this draft. I think his upside is limitless. He has ideal physical characteristics. He's incredible from an intangible standpoint. If we would have plugged him in, not at North Dakota, but someplace in the Big Ten, I think we'd be having a much bigger discussion about Trey Lance. So I completely agree. And, you know, Josh Rosen, remarkably, he's already been on 3 teams, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Arizona. So, you know, that obviously hasn't worked out. But I think Trey Lance is really intriguing. And if he could sit for a year or two, like he said, I think that's ideal.
No question about it. Trey Lance from Marshall, Minnesota, right there, as Mike said, in Big Ten country. Anybody could have had him. Anybody could have had him. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests appear on the Goodyear Hotline. That'll begin with A.J. Hawk coming up here in about 15 minutes. Okay, so let's end it. The 5th and final quarterback taken in the first round in 2018 was that Heisman Trophy winner that turned out to be a little more than a wide receiver. That would be, of course, Lamar Jackson, and you know what's happened since Action Jackson has taken over. Here's the interesting thing. Lamar was picked at 32, 5th quarterback in 2018 at 32. Mike's got Justin Fields going to the Panthers at 8. So that would be 5 quarterbacks in the first 8 picks. Key, better situation. Lamar walking in to Baltimore at 32, or Justin Fields walking in perhaps to Charlotte at the number 8 spot.
Well, I would say the better situation is clearly Lamar Jackson at 32. Joe Flacco, older quarterback at the time. They realized that Joe Flacco was at the end of his career. They was just waiting for him to make the mistake, step on his toe, so they can now insert Lamar Jackson into the lineup. The Carolina Panthers just traded for Sam Darnold to be their quarterback. Essentially, Mike can do the calculations on the 2nd and 3rd round pick that they gave up for him over the next couple drafts and then some other capital. That's essentially a 1st round pick. I don't see where they would want to move on from Sam. I think Sam is going to be their future. You think about the contract situation with him, $19 million on an option that they are going to pick up on his fifth-year option. You do the multiplication over the 2 years of this contract and the next year's contract. That's not a lot of money tied up in a quarterback that you could take a look at, opposed to drafting a guy this high and then moving on from Sam, who's young, who's not a veteran quarterback, who can tutor a young quarterback like Justin Fields to get better. So I understand where Mike is at, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that they would do that.
So I think this one's really interesting on both ends. So first of all, Lamar Jackson being drafted by Baltimore, I have a ton of respect for that organization. John Harbaugh, a defensive-minded head coach, wanted a quarterback that he knew would be really hard for him to defend, somebody that had incredible skills like Lamar Jackson. And when you have that organizational alignment, Lamar Jackson, you're playing to his strength.